Well, welcome everybody to this evening's program. It's nice to see so many of you on such a cold night. I'd like to introduce you all to His Grace Sriman Sankarshan Das Adhikari. Maharaj is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And Maharaj was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1971.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sadhanadam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Sabadutam Varijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtitire. So this seminar is actually based on a paper that I wrote for, an article I wrote for the ISKCON Pune temple, who has a very big congregation, and they wanted to do a book for grihasthas. So they asked me to write this article, and which I did. Let's see, that was I wrote this in back in 2012 in April, when I was in Vrindavan, and I just gave it the same seminar the other night in Kuala Lumpur, also for two nights in a row to many householders, and non-householders also came to attend this seminar. Spiritual Perfection is Householder Life. This is, we're talking about the actual regulative principles for those who are initiated. If you're not yet initiated, this is not all these procedures don't necessarily apply to you. In other words, we have many members in our movement who are not initiated yet, and who are not yet ready to follow all these principles. So if you're not initiated yet, don't feel that we're saying you have to do this. This is for those who have taken the vow of initiation. But at least if you're not initiated, you should know what the standards are for initiation. So in the future, you can come to this standard. Actually, it's a very wonderful standard. And that's why we take an initiation. But we're not pressuring anyone to follow these standards. One gentleman became very disturbed the other night in Kuala Lumpur when he heard these procedures, and he didn't tell me personally, he told one of my disciples. He was rather disturbed by what I had said. But this is not for everyone. This is for the initiated disciples, those who are getting ready for initiation. So please take it, and there's a disclaimer I'm giving. That's my disclaimer. So you can take it with a grain of salt if you're not in that category. You can just say, well, it's interesting, I don't have to do this. We're not saying you have to do this, all right?
They are the principles of freedom. If anybody likes, they can do it.
But you're welcome to do it. If you're welcome to do it, or to even try doing it halfway, you're welcome to move in the direction of doing this if you can't do it completely. Because actually, householder life, sometimes one gentleman wrote me the other day, he said, well, how is it possible I can become liberated because I'm caught up in householder life? The only hope I can see is to give up householder life and take the name of God. And he didn't realize that you can remain as a householder and become liberated. So in this seminar, we're going to talk about how you can become a fully liberated, pure devotee of the Lord, even while you're a married person. That's what we're talking about. You can become one of the great sadhus of the Vedic tradition, even while you're married here in Melbourne, working a job, raising a family. You can become a great liberated Acharya, actually, like Bhaktivedanta, even while you're engaged in household activities. We're giving a very high standard here tonight. But if we present the high standard, then at least we can aim for the high standard if we can't come to it all the way. And that will benefit us. So the first point is that householder life is an equal opportunity for going back to Godhead. In the Vedic scriptures we hear about 12 great personalities. They're called the Mahajana. Svayambhur Nadada Shambhu Kumaro Kapilo Mudu Pralado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vayasakirvayam. These are known as the 12 great Mahajanas. Svayambhur, that's Lord Brahma. Svayambhur Nadada, Narad Muni. Shambhu, Lord Shiva. Svayambhur Nadada Shambhu. Kumara, the 4 Kumaras. Kumara, Kapilo, Manu. Lord Kapila Dev, the incarnation of God. Manu, Svayambhuva Manu. Pralado Janako Bhishmo, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Vyasaki, Shukadev Goswami, and Yamaraj. These are the 12 great Mahajanas. So if we analyze all of these Mahajanas, how many are brahmacharis and how many are married, grihasthas? You see, how many are married? If you break it down, you'll see, well, Lord Brahma, we can count on the fingers, okay? Here we have Brahma, grihastha, Narada Muni, brahmachari, Lord Shiva, grihastha, the 4 Kumaras, brahmachari, Lord Kapila Dev, brahmachari, Swayambhuva Manu, grihastha, Prahlad Maharaj, grihastha, Janaka Maharaj, grihastha, grandfather Bhishma, brahmachari, Bali Maharaj, grihastha. Now we go to the second 6. Shukadev Goswami, brahmachari, and Yamaraj, grihastha. So we have 7 grihasthas and 5 brahmacharis out of the 12 great Mahajanas. So this is how Prabhupada analyzed it in a lecture he gave in Gorakhpur, India on the 12th February 1971. In case the sannyasis and brahmacharis get mad at me, you can't get mad at me, because this is how Prabhupada analyzed the 12 great Mahajanas on February 12, 1971, a lecture he gave in Gorakhpur, India. So, according to Prabhupada, we can see among the 12 great Mahajanas, more of them are married men than are brahmacharis. So you can't argue, well, I'm a married person, so I cannot become a liberated soul. You can't argue that. You can't argue that. Because in the history, there are more liberated grihasthas than there are liberated brahmacharis. So if one wants to be a liberated soul and get out of the cycle of birth in this lifetime, then one should know then what are the actual regulated principles of freedom that apply to householders, how they can become liberated souls while living with wife, children, etc. So our great hero in the brahmachari, the grihastha ashram is Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He had around 12 kids, and he was working a very intense job. He was working for the British government during British rule of India, and he had a very high position. If you know anything about the British rule of India, you know that Indians could not occupy the high-level positions in the government, but they could go as high as magistrate. So he achieved the topmost position that an Indian could hold in the British government, which was magistrate. He was magistrate in Jagannath Puri, the great holy place. He was in charge of the Jagannath temple as a representative of the British government. He was in charge of the Jagannath temple in Puri. And while he was working his job, he considered a topmost valuable employee in the British government, raising around 12 children, one of whom was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was writing songs and writing books, and he would take leave from his work sometimes and do Namahat preaching all over the Bengal and Orissa. So he was a big preacher. He did a huge Namahat Sangha program very far and wide, and at the same time he's a married man. So he's given a very nice song, which now we will study for a few minutes, describing what should be the proper mood of a married person in Krishna consciousness. If we can simply take this mood of Bhaktivedanta Thakur and apply it in our lives, then we can become liberated souls, like Bhaktivedanta Thakur. Amara bolite Prabhu, Adi kichu nai, Tumi amara matra pita bandhu bhai. O Lord, nothing further remains that may be called mine. Father, friend, brother, you alone are all these to me. Bandhu dada sutta sutta tava dasi das se to sambandhe sabe amare prayas. My friends, wife, sons and daughters are now your servants and maidservants. Whatever care I take for them is only as they are related to you. Dana jana griha dara tomara boliya raka kari ame matra sevaka hoiya. Declaring that my wealth, family members, home and wife are truly yours, I continue as a mere servant to dutifully protect them. Tomara karera tare uparjibodhan tomaro samsara vyasa kariba vaham. For the purpose of your service, I will earn money and bear the expense of maintaining your household. So a Krishna conscious householder doesn't work to maintain his household. He doesn't do that. He works to maintain Krishna's household. If you think it's your household, if you think it's your wife, if you think it's your kids, you're a materialist. If you see them as the property of God, then you're a spiritualist. So you have a choice whether you want a materialistic householder called Grihamedi, or do you want a spiritual householder called Grihastha. It's your choice. You will get the result. A Grihastha, one who is truly Krishna conscious household life, this will be his last birth in the material world. He'll go back to Godhead upon leaving his body. The Grihamedi, the materialistic householder, he'll take birth after birth after birth after birth. As long as he continues to think, my house, my wife, my children, this is simply Maya, you see. Balamanda nahi jani seva matra kori, tomara samsari ame vishaya prahari. I know nothing of what is good or bad, I simply render my service. I am but a watchman set to guard the properties of your household. Tomara ichaya mora indriya chalana, shravana darshana grana bhojana vasana. I exercise my senses only according to your direction, and thus I desire to hear, see, smell and taste. Nija sukha lagi kichu nai mori koriar, bhaktivedanta bole tava sukha. I no longer do anything for my own pleasure. Bhaktivedanta says, your pleasure is the essence of everything. So that's the philosophical basis of perfection in spirit and household life. You have to give up the false sense of proprietorship. You have to have full faith in the words of Krishna, who says, Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvaloka maheshvaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva manusham samrichati. Bhagavad Gita 5:29. I am the enjoyer of everything because I'm the owner of everything. And I'm the best friend of all living entities. Only one who knows this can achieve peace. So don't try to be the enjoyer of your household. Don't try to be the enjoyer of your wife and children. Don't try to be the enjoyer of your income. If you do, you are a thief. Because it is all the property of Bhagavan Krishna. It's very important. This is the philosophical basis for spiritual perfection in the household life. There are certain rules and regulations we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but they're based on this principle. What does it mean when I'm not the enjoyer? That everything is for the pleasure of Krishna. That we will discuss. What does it mean in practical terms of rules and regulations? So, if I'm not the enjoyer, everything's for the service of the Lord, then what is the difference between a brahmacharya and a grihastha? You see, what is the difference? One has the license for something and the other one doesn't. What is that one thing that the householder has a license for and the brahmacharya doesn't have a license for? Sex. You see, that's the difference. Household life is a license for sex. Now, if the principle of spiritual or enlightened household life is I am not the enjoyer, but I'm simply the servant. This applies to me and to my wife also. The whole family should think everything should be for the service of Krishna, not for my sense enjoyment. Then what position does that put sex in, you see? Does that make sex something for entertainment? Something for relieving tension from a day at the office? Or something like that? No. Sex is now, instead of something for enjoyment, sex is something to be used in the service of the Lord. So how can sex be used in the service of the Lord? Sex may be used in the service of the Lord by using it for its purpose, producing saintly children. You see. So this is the dividing line between grihastha and grihamedi, you see, in terms of practical things. The grihastha, the Krishna conscious householder, will use sex for procreation, but not for recreation, not for enjoyment. For procreation and not for recreation. This is what got the man very disturbed the other night in Kuala Lumpur. Because he thought, as a married man, he has a license to use sex for recreation. Now, in the material society, that's true. At every Christian church, in practically every Hindu temple, this is differentiates ISKCON from Hindu temples, from Muslim mosques, from Jewish synagogues. You see, in every other, all in the common religious practices today, this is unheard of, what Prabhupada is teaching you. I'm not giving you what I say, I'm giving you what Prabhupada says. And I'm going to read the instructions from Prabhupada himself. This makes us different. Even Gaudiya Vaishnavas practicing in India today and other outside of ISKCON, they don't follow this principle. They don't. This is what makes Prabhupada's teachings very unique. Because he's teaching his householders, disciples, how to become Paramahamsa, even while they're married, fully liberated souls, you see. So we'll look at some of the actual practical instructions in this connection. You may say, but that doesn't sound right. It seems like the householder shouldn't have to be under the same strict rules like a sannyasi or a brahmachari. I mean, householder life means that you'll enjoy your senses. Why there should be some restriction? That I can only use it for procreation. But consider this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 12, text number 11. Etat sarvam kihattasya samannantam yaterapi guruvritir vikalpena grihastas yartu gamina. All the rules and regulations apply equally to the householder and the sannyasi, the member of the renounced order of life. The grihastha, however, is given permission by the spiritual master to indulge in sex during the period favorable for procreation. Here is Srila Prabhupada's purport to that verse. If you want to write that down, that's 7, 12, 11, Bhagavatam. It is sometimes misunderstood that a grihastha householder is permitted to indulge in sex at any time. This is wrong conception of grihastha life. In spiritual life, whether one is a grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, or brahmachari, everyone is under the control of the spiritual master. Now remember, this is for initiated devotees. If you're just coming as a member of our temple, you don't have to follow this. This is for those who've taken initiation and accepted a Guru Maharaj. Again, don't misunderstand that everybody who comes to the temple, now we're not saying everyone has to do this. This is for those who are very serious, who want to get out of the cycle of present as they've taken a spiritual master. This is the principle for those devotees, the initiates. For brahmacharis and sannyasis, there are strong restrictions on sexual indulgence. Similarly, there are strong restrictions for grihasthas. Grihasthas should indulge in sex life only in accordance with the order of the Guru. Therefore, it is mentioned here that one must follow the orders of the spiritual master. Guru vritir Vikalpena. When the spiritual master orders, the grahastha may accept sex life. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:11. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. Indulgence in sex life without disobedience to the rules, religious rules and regulations, constitutes a religious principle. The grahastha is allowed to indulge in sex during the period favorable for procreation and in accordance with the spiritual master's order. The spiritual master's orders allow grahastha to engage in sex at that particular time, then the grahastha may do so. Otherwise, if the spiritual master orders against it, the grahastha should abstain. The grahastha must obtain permission from the spiritual master to observe the ritualistic ceremony of Garbhodhan Samskara. Now, this is one of the Vedic purificatory ceremonies. There are a number of samskaras in the Vedic system. Marriage ceremony is there, the funeral ceremony is there, the birth ceremony. Similarly, the Garbhodhan Samskara is one of the religious purificatory ceremonies to be observed by those who are on the pathway to the spiritual world. That ceremony means that once married, one does not have sex life with his wife until he has the permission from his spiritual master. And then the husband and wife engage in the Garbhodhan Samskara. The Brahmins are called, Prashadam is distributed. It's a public ceremony that now this couple is going to try to have a child, and now we call all the auspiciousness and blessings upon this combination of the man and woman for producing a saintly child. So it's a public ceremony. When the husband and wife decide they want, and they have blessings from their spiritual master, now they will have the ceremony. Prabhupada did not institute this in ISKCON. He gave us another form of it in the form of what's called 50 rounds of japa. That he instructed that before the husband and wife try to have a child, they should chant 50 rounds. This is the most fertile day of the month, once in a month, just after the menstrual cycle of the lady. The husband and wife will both chant 50 rounds of japa, and then once in a month they can try to have a child. I remember many years ago, I was a brahmachari, and at our Miami temple in the U.S., and I was standing out there in the temple yard, and one household gentleman, his wife was with him, he approached me just to tell me, he was very excited, he wanted to tell me something. He said, last night my wife and I, we chanted 50 rounds, we were going to try to have a child, according to Prabhupada's system, 50 rounds of japa. And we were so enlivened by chanting the 50 rounds, we said, after we finished the 50 rounds, he said, let's wait till next month to try to have a child. They were in other words, the name of Krishna, you may say this rule sounds draconian. I mean, this sounds like something out of the medieval period or something. One day it sounds really horrible. But the reality is that if you actually enter into the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. You will taste the pleasure more blissful than sex. And in this material world, sex is the most pleasurable thing. Having sex is like being a demigod for about 10 seconds in the spiritual world. I mean, in the heavenly planets, not the spiritual world. But it's like being a demigod in the heavenly planets for about 10 seconds. And then you have to spend the whole life, struggling, changing the diapers and screaming in the middle of the night, getting the kid off to school, he doesn't want to go to school, the whole lifetime, and getting him off to college, paying the tuition. It's a whole life of struggle for 10 seconds of being a demigod. So, for 10 seconds I get to, wow, it's like being a demigod, for 10 seconds, but then, a whole lifetime of struggle, So the thing is that you can actually, if you dive deep into the mantra, you can get a pleasure better than being a demigod by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama. So, anyway, the householder couple said, well, just wait till next month, We don't feel like coming down to the bodily platform after being so high in the mantra. Sex means we have to come down to the man-woman platform again. We were up here, both of us were flying high on the Brahman platform, the spiritual level now, but to come down to the bottom male-female platform to have sex, no thank you, we'll wait another month. So it's actually not artificial renunciation, it's a matter of getting a higher taste, you see. So this is again voluntary, you don't have to do this to be a member of ISKCON. We have many non-initiated members, we love you, you're welcome. You don't ever have to get initiated if you don't want to, you can just stay as a non-initiated member if you like your whole life. But if you're serious to get out of the cycle of birth and death, you have to take very seriously what Prabhupada says to you. Because this is required to actually become a liberated soul. Now Prabhupada continues here in his purport. So he gives permission, Grahastha may obtain permission from the spiritual master to observe the ritualistic ceremony of Govardhan Samskara. For us that's 50 rounds, that's our version of it in ISKCON. Then he may approach his wife to beget children, otherwise not. A brahmachari generally remains a brahmachari throughout his entire life, but although some brahmins become grahasthas and indulge in sex, they do so under the complete control of the spiritual master. The kshatriya is allowed to marry more than one wife, but this is also must be in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master. It is not that because one is a grahastha he may marry as many times as he likes and indulge in sex as he likes. This is not spiritual life. In spiritual life, one must conduct one's whole life under the guidance of the Guru. Only one who executes his spiritual life under the direction of the spiritual master can achieve the mercy of Krishna. Some people say that only Prabhupada is the Guru. But how you can get permission from Prabhupada to beget a child if he's not here now? It's very common sense. Somebody has to be alive on the planet to say, yes, you have my blessings, go ahead and try to have a child. You can't say a departed spiritual master will give me blessings. How you can confirm he actually said yes? You can't. So that's why a living guru is required. That's another point. Okay. Only one who executes his spiritual life under the direction of the spiritual master can achieve the mercy of Krishna. Yasha prasadam bhagava prasadam. If one desires to advance in spiritual life, but he acts whimsically and not following the orders of the spiritual master, he has no shelter. Yasha prasadam nagati kutopi. Without the spiritual master's order, even the grahastha should not indulge in sex life. After hearing the rules and regulations, okay, that's the end of the quote from the purport. So maybe there's some questions now. I see these are all blank papers, or anybody has written a question down. There's somebody writing. One question on the way at least.
Any more questions?
Is there one question somewhere? Okay, here's some question. All right. Does householder do householder devotee couple have to be parents? No, it's not required. Householder life is a license for sex, but it doesn't mean you have to have sex. If they want to remain, just like my wife and I, we remain brahmacharis the whole time. Ever since we've always been brahmacharis. Our whole relationship has been brahmachari. So it's not required. We choose to have our children. Actually, we have a very big family. We have 150 children. How many of you have 150 children? We have 150, and we're having 2 new kids. 2 sons we're having. 2 new sons we're having in a few days at our initiation ceremony. We're having 2 new sons. So we have about 153, I forget the 100. Just by preaching, we have 150 children. So you don't have to have sex life if you want to remain brahmachari, but it's very nice. Our householder couples have devotee children. It's very good. Any householder couple, we encourage you. If you want to have a family that's beautiful, take the blessings and then bring wonderful Krishna conscious children into the world. Why is the Jivatma subjected to material suffering? Even though we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, why are we subjected to misery? How to separate ourselves from misery and stay happy as the soul? Actually, the Jiva soul, the Jivatma, is fully blissful by nature. Anandamayo Vyasa. His constitutional nature is, he's full of unlimited happiness. So why is he suffering? He's suffering due to ignorance. Because he's misidentifying himself with a material body, which is subjected to birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore he's suffering. So give up the ignorance of misidentifying yourself with this gross body. Understand you're an eternal spiritual being, qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. And become happy. It's not difficult. Okay, some more questions? Would like to add something to that? Okay, go ahead.
The question is that why we are miserable. It's like in Australia, if you don't follow government's law, you will have to suffer, either in the prison or punishment somewhere or the other. So if we don't follow the universal law, then we will suffer. We cannot blame on why it is happening. It's a natural thing. That's what is going to happen.
Okay, next question. Hare Krishna. What's she saying? Here's another one. Okay, here's another one. Okay, two different parents asked their spiritual masters, there's two different gurus, and one guru says yes and the other one says no. Well, the gurus have to agree. I mean, it can't be unfair. I doubt this has ever happened in ISKCON. It's a very theoretical question. It's an interesting question. If that happens, you should tell the gurus what's going on. Let the two gurus work it out. You know? I mean, you can't have one guru saying no, the other one saying yes. I don't think it'll ever happen, but if it does, just tell the gurus. I'm sure they'll understand and they'll work out something for everybody's satisfaction. Okay, next question. Anandamaya Vyasa, he is suffering. Can you please elaborate on how to stay in the soul platform and not identify with the body? Well, this regulation that I just said for householders is very important. Because as soon as you indulge on the bodily plane, to unnecessarily in sense gratification, now you're setting yourself up for so many miseries. You can't say, well, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to enjoy material sense gratification and I also want to enjoy spiritual life. It doesn't work that way. You will not be able to do that. If you want to enjoy the pleasure of spiritual life, you have to give up material sense gratification. As long as you continue to indulge in material sense gratification beyond what is allowed in the scriptures, then there is no question of getting spiritual bliss. You won't be able to taste it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want spiritual bliss, you have to take only as much material bliss as is authorized by the scriptures. If you overindulge in material sense gratification, you will not be able to taste spiritual bliss. It will not be possible. And if you're willing to give up material sense gratification, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, you're willing to chant at least 50 rounds a day of Hare Krishna Japamala, and you're willing to serve Vaishnavas, read the books of Prabhupada, eat only Krishna Prasadam, then you will become transcendently fixed in Krishna consciousness. Okay. All right. In the Gita, Krishna says the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Can you please explain how karma works? Well, if Krishna can't explain the intricacies, what do you think I can do? But actually, it's the basic principles that we are very commonly understood. If you inflict suffering on another living entity, you will suffer. If you commit sinful activities, you will suffer. If you do pious activities, you will enjoy. But both of these reactions to pious and impious activities, both of these actions require you to take birth again in this material world. Someone may think, well, I'm doing such good work. I open a charity hospital. I help so many people and give them free medical care. Now what's your result? You get free medical care in your next life. Wow, what a great reward. I get free medical care. I get sick and I get to go to the hospital and get free medical care. Birth after birth after birth. For every person who I gave free medical care to. Now, is that an enlivening reward? It's a fair reward, because all those people owe you that favor. So you have to come back again to be rewarded by all those people that you rewarded with free medical care. But if you give them Krishna consciousness, you see, then you're not bound in any way to the material existence. You give them Krishna consciousness. So if you want to do good for others, give them Krishna consciousness, you see. If you want to feed the poor, distribute prasadam. It's also tasty, and actually it's more tasty and more beneficial. If you want to feed the poor, distribute Krishna prasadam. You see. In this way, there's no even pious reaction. We say, go back to Godhead, referring to the spiritual world. Had God run away from His creation? Why? Has the government run away from the prison? The government creates the prison for the benefit of those who are rebellious against the government, to reform them, and to try to make them into law-abiding citizens once again. Sometimes the government even will visit, the government leader will even visit the prison and give pardons. I know when that happened in Texas, there was a famous singer, a blues singer named Leadbelly, U.D. Ledbetter. He committed a murder and he was put into prison. Whether he was on death row or life sentence, I don't know. But the governor visited the prison and he heard Leadbelly singing a song and he said, let him go, he really sings good. So the Lord has not run away from the prison. He actually comes here from time to time to visit the place, to bestow mercy upon all those who are willing to take His mercy. Yada yada hi dharma shablanir bhavati bharatam. The Lord has not run away. He's actually present within every atom, between every atom. He's in the heart of every living entity. We have run away from God. God has never run away from us. Okay, more questions coming? The Shastras say that jivas were initially servants of Krishna in the spiritual world, but at some point in time, you're developing a desire to enjoy independently of Krishna. The jiva descends in the material world. Actually, it was not at some point in time. Time is non-existent in the spiritual world. This happened outside of the realm of time, in timelessness. The foolish living entity transferred himself from the realm of timelessness into the realm of time. Yeah, Prabhupada is, there's actually, I forget the verse number, but you send me an email, this Kartik has written me this. If Kartik will send an email to sda@bhaktohome.com, sda@bhaktohome.com, I'll give you the exact purport where Prabhupada talks about it. I don't remember the verse number now offhand. But Prabhupada quotes from one word called the Prema-Vivarta, one verse about that. How the jiva turns his face away from Krishna and gets a good slap from Maya. There's a verse like that in the Prema-Vivarta.
jiva bhoga vancha kare, pachase maya japatiyata.
Yes. So that verse is there, but if you want the exact, we can give you the exact if you will send the email. And also would like to get a copy of this essay I wrote, Spiritual Perfection and Household Life. You can note this down. You go to a website known as ISKCONstandards.com. ISKCONSTANDARDS. ISKCONstandards.com. And then you'll find a link on the bottom for this article on spiritual perfection and household life. You'll find the link right there. You just click on it and you can read the whole essay, and you can also download it if you want. Okay. If we are trying to follow spiritual life and start chanting and somehow not yet given up material sense gratification completely, and to what extent, what will happen? Well, to whatever extent you've given up sense gratification and taken up chanting, to that extent you will advance. And to whatever extent you are still remaining addicted to material sense gratification and not being absorbed in chanting, to that extent you remain in the clutches of the material nature. So how much liberation do you want? You want to be halfway liberated, 1/3 liberated, 3/4 liberated? It's up to you. If you're on the Titanic and there's a lifeboat, how much would you like to be in the lifeboat? When the Titanic is sinking, the lifeboat is there. 10%? 10% of the lifeboat? I can tell you, the people who tried to get in the lifeboat but ended up in the water, the water was so cold they died within minutes. Not water, it was icebergs floating, okay? That water was extremely cold. The people who were not on the Titanic, even if they had a life jacket on and they were in the water, they died very quickly. The only survivors of the Titanic were the people who were 100% in the lifeboat. So, you can think about it. You see? If you're in the process of getting into the lifeboat, alright. Even if you're like, you just stepped off a Titanic and you're jumping into the lifeboat, you haven't landed yet fully in the lifeboat, you're in the middle of the process, then you're okay. As long as the lifeboat doesn't move before you get out of the way, before you land in it. The safest thing is you always get yourself solidly in there as soon as possible. That's the safest position.
Would you say this body is a Titanic?
The body is the Titanic, yeah. The sinking ship. And the lifeboat is the lotus feet of Krishna. Samashadaye parlapallava plabam mahatpadam punya jasho marare bhavam vadir vatsa param badam yanvadam vitesham. Vyasadeva has once again defeated Shakespeare with his poetry. He says the one who has taken shelter of the boat, of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who is famous for being the annihilator of that rascal demon named Muda, and for being the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, this vast, insurmountable ocean of material existence becomes reduced down to the amount of water within the hoofprint of a calf, vatsapadam. For such a person, their aim is Parampadam, the Vaikuntha realm, not that place where there is misery in every step. You see. So, take shelter of that boat, of the lotus feet of Krishna, fully manifested by Prabhupada now in this form of ISKCON. Get on the ISKCON ship for the safe journey back to home, back to Godhead. Okay? In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 3, Krishna says that the nature of the soul is active. Then in 3:27, Krishna says the material nature is the cause of everything that happens. Can you explain on that point, please? Yes, because Krishna is active, the soul also has that quality of activity. But at the same time, the material nature is the cause of everything. So how then the soul can be considered active and the material nature is actually doing everything? The soul has voluntarily chosen. He has acted to become under the action of the material nature. That is his action. He opted to try to be an enjoyer separately from the Lord. So he acted to be under the action of the material nature. A rough example is, let's say somebody decides to join one organization called Al-Qaeda. Now, and then he engages in some terrorist activity. And when he's put on trial, he says, you can't really blame me. If I didn't blow up the World Trade Center, they would have killed me. I had to do this. You can't blame me. I'm innocent because Osama bin Laden ordered me. I have to blow up the World Trade Center, otherwise I'd be put to death. My family would be tortured, etc., etc., etc. But you voluntarily joined Al-Qaeda, so therefore you're responsible, even though you were acting under the influence of Al-Qaeda because you chose to join it initially, therefore you're responsible. So even though the material nature is acting, you see, we chose to join the material nature. We acted to join it, therefore we have to take the responsibility for everything that we do or the material nature does through us. You see? So that way we have to understand it. Okay. When Brahma dies, why does the earth planet die? Could you please answer why? When Brahma dies, the whole universe is inhaled into the body of Mahavishnu. The whole thing is not only the earth planet, but the whole universe is destroyed in the time of Brahma's death. This is a cyclical pattern. The universe goes through cycles of manifestation and non-manifestation. This is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Yashraika nishvashita kalamatavalambya jivanti mamagalaja jaganandanata Vishnur mahansa iha yasha kala vishesho govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma and other lords of the material worlds remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of Mahavishnu. I adore the primal limb Govinda, whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is a portion of the portion. So all these worlds, they only remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of Mahavishnu. When he exhales, they come into being. When he inhales, they go out of being once again into a dormant state. And that Mahavishnu is just a subjective, it's just a portion of the portion of Krishna. We have heard so many times to follow the rules of family life, but as Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, that because of lust one is forced to indulge in things even unwillingly. My question is, what is the last thing one can try before becoming a victim of lust? Even when your intelligence is no more able to help you. Pray, my dear Krishna, please save me from this lust. Please, Krishna. Just beg Krishna. Just imagine that some terrorist had captured you and they're getting ready to cut your head off. And there's nothing you can do to fight them off. It's helpless, it's hopeless. So all you can do is beg. Please don't do this. I'm a devotee of Allah, please don't do this. I believe in Allah. I bow down to Allah. In the name of Allah, I beg you, please don't cut off my head. All you can do is beg. See, Allah is another name of Krishna. We have no problem, Allah. Allah Akbar Ki Jai. We have no problem. Just don't cut off my head. You see. So when lust, something happens, sometimes people have trouble with lust, they become overpowered by it. Their intelligence even, they know they shouldn't do it, but they still do it. There's like that, who was that Brahmin boy? He fell down. Ajamil, yeah. He knew better, but he still couldn't control himself. He fell down with that prostitute, Ajamil. So sometimes even though you know it's bad, you do it anyway. You just have to beg, Krishna, please help me. Please, Krishna, save me from this lust. My dear Madan Mohan, Krishna, the attractor of Cupid, please save me, please save me. And you know what? Calling out to Krishna helplessly like a child is actually more satisfying than the lust is satisfying. That pleasure you thought you were going to get by indulging in lust, by calling out to Krishna like a child begging for mercy, if you keep calling out, you'll find you're getting more pleasure by calling out to Krishna than you would get by indulging in lust, so therefore you can give it up by getting the higher taste. That prayer of calling out feelingly to the Lord will give you a bigger taste, a sweeter taste, more ruchi, you see, than engaging in bhakti ruchi is 1,000,000 times better than kama ruchi. You see, that's the point. Okay. At what stage of our devotional progress can we start Raganuga Bhakti? When you become a completely pure devotee, no more lust, no more anger, no more greed, no more madness, no more illusion, and you won't tell anyone, you won't advertise to anyone. Guess what, Prabhu? I just say Raganuga Prabhu. Actually, we had one boy who tried to pretend he was a Raganugi. I remember he came back from Sankirtan, and he told me, he said, Prabhu, I've been blessed with bliss. And then he tried to seduce one of the brahmacharis in the middle of the night. Which is not really according to our system. He wanted to have sex with one of the brahmacharis in the middle of the night. So the temple president didn't really like that. And he was sent on his way. He was initiated devotee, but he had this idea that he achieved some high-level Raganuga platform, and he could indulge in sex life, homosex. And it was part of his ecstasy, you see. So one should not think that to think one's on some high level of Raganuga is a very dangerous position. One has to actually become a completely pure devotee. There are 9 different levels. There's Shraddha, firm faith in the process. Then there is sadhu sangha, associating with devotees. There's bhajana kriya, that's one develops faith in the process and wants to follow the regulated principles, become initiated. That's bhajana kriya. And then at bhajana kriya stage, then you go to anartana vritti. You get initiated and you work very, very hard to get free of all the lust, the anger, the greed, the madness, the illusion, and the envy. And that's a lifetime project, actually. It's a lifetime project. Nartanavritti. And then from Nartanavritti, then you go to Nishta. You become very solidly fixed. Now you're almost completely a pure devotee. You've achieved the Nishta stage. Then you become a little bit more purified. And you achieve the Ruchi stage, where there's unlimited taste in the name, where you could chant Hare Krishna for millions of years and never get tired. You could sit here Bhagavatam for 7 days with no problem. Even 70 years, even for 7 million years, you could sit in your Bhagavatam in complete ecstasy for 7 million years. That's the Ruchi stage. And then there's the Asakti stage, where you become absolutely, totally addicted and attached to Krishna. At that stage, you can actually realize your Swarup, who you are in the pastimes of Krishna. And while externally engaging in all the regulative activities of sadhana bhakti, just like a neophyte, and even presenting yourself externally as a neophyte, then you can actually begin Raganuga Bhakti at the Asakti stage. And through that Raganuga Bhakti, then you will progress to Bhava and then to Prema. Sometimes devotees think that they are very advanced and now they can take up Raganuga Bhakti. But we see they don't even follow Prabhupada's instructions. They grow big, big beards against the orders of Srila Prabhupada, thinking that they're on the Raganuga platform. But this is called Sahajya, one who takes the process very whimsically, or very lightly.
It's not a question, it's a note for you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And we thank you all very, very much. We have some sweets to distribute, some Mahaprasadam. Oh, okay. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. I hope you got something out of this. You can take some advantage of the Prabhupada's wonderful teachings and use them to make your life successful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.